Please give us a sign when you are ready.
Good morning. My name is Tom Moebus, and I am the co-founder and co-director of the Ricci Guanxi Young Scholars Program. Let me say a word about those two names. Matteo Ricci was a Jesuit scholar, a man from history, actually, from the 16th century. He was the first Westerner to be invited to visit and stay in the Forbidden City. And while he was there, he worked with a scientist, astronomer, philosopher whose name was Xu Guanxi. And together they formed a unique partnership that blended the philosophies of China and the West, the Roman world in those days, in a number of volumes and treatises on philosophy and science that really took the best of the two worlds and brought it together. And those two people were the model for our scholars, the young elite students that we brought together and have done so for the last 2 years. Thinking of, and it's really true, the title of your conference, I'm very pleased to be here talking about grooming green leaders, because that's exactly almost a mission statement of what this program is all about. Because we look to the future, facing the kind of global climate change that is really challenging, threatening our planet. And we believe that the future is going to have to be led by young people, the so-called Generation Z, who will be able to work together across national divides, across cultural divides, political divides, to be able to find solutions for a harmonious future. So when we look at garden learning, we actually think of the earth as the garden that we're working in. And that's the level that we're really talking about with our young scholars. So let me tell you who they are. We've been very pleased to work with Nanjing Foreign Language School in Jiangsu Province as our partner school. And we've been supported by the Foreign Affairs Office in Jiangsu Province, and we're very grateful and for that gracious support. And we're based in New York City. There are two schools here. A Jesuit school, like Matteo Ricci, named Regis High School. And I was a graduate of that school eons ago in 1965. And a sister school of theirs, Dominican Academy. So there are boys and girls. There are 15 students from America in New York and 15 students from Nanjing in the first class that began in September 2020, meeting on Zoom. Originally, we were going to go to China to visit, but COVID took care of that plan. So we pivoted and decided to start using this magical thing we call Zoom, which allows me to sit here in Connecticut and be with you in Nanjing. And that's exactly what we do. Every other week on a Saturday, whether it's morning or evening, our students are together and they talk with each other like they're next door neighbors. And they talk about everything. They began by talking about family life and how their schools were alike or different, but they talked about difficult issues too. They talked about technology and social media, which there's some, controversial issues between the US and China. They talked about the US election, the crazy US election with Trump and Biden and the difficulties of that. And to have the students talking very candidly with each other was an amazing thing. So after that first term, where the students made an incredible presentation at the end, we were able to attract the interest of the World Economic Forum, a very prestigious organization, which brings together business leaders and political leaders and leaders from all phases of life. And thanks to the very persuasive skills of my partner who's with us in the meeting here, Wei Lin, or Catherine Wei, as she's identified on the panel of attendees here, we were able to attract the Beijing branch of the World Economic Forum to deliver lectures each April to our scholars. And they talked about global climate change, because that's our theme. They talked about the big picture, and we didn't spare the students any of the truth about what's happening to the climate. And in particular, now we get really to the subject of the earth as a big garden. They talked about deforestation, at what's happening in the rainforests in Brazil and the rest of the world, that we're really losing our protective cover of trees. And that really has a big impact on the carbon buildup. And the end discussion was, what can your generation do, you 16-year-olds, speaking to the students in the room, whether you're in Nanjing or New York, you're in the Zoom room. And then the student was up to the students then to begin talking in groups of 6 or 7, based around their interests, whether their interests were science or health or art and music. What could they do, and how could they make a difference, an impact in their lives? And the students are very keen on that. And I'll tell you what they decided to do in a moment, but so we began after a summer. The Nanjing students had a project to explore the full supply chain for soybean, to understand from the farm in Brazil or elsewhere to the food production plant, to either animal husbandry or to the food chain in humans. It's an amazing story to really understand how the food process works and how our diets really affect the climate. So the seniors decided to create something called the Cool Food Pledge. And I'm going to take a moment to share this with you and show you what this is. Yeah, all right. Where is it? Aha.
Excuse me, Mr. Thomas, do you have a presentation?
I'm not going to continue.
Do you have a presentation?
The Cool 16 Pledge is something that the students are bringing to their families, their schools, and their communities to try to encourage people to make a behavior change that can change the planet. So it's basically asking people to sign a pledge where they will make a change in their diet, a change in the way they handle energy, transportation, whether they're driving a car, taking a bus, or walking, and the way they handle waste. And a person can choose an easy level. Level 1 is the entry level. You're making just a tiny change in your current behavior, all the way up to level 5, where you're completely committing to a plant-based diet, for instance. And based on that, we were going to sum up the impact of the students and their network. And one can equate that impact to the number of trees that you save. So this is the way that this converts into the great garden of the earth. So that's what the seniors are doing with their project. Now, the juniors have just gone through their discussions with the World Economic Forum in April, and the forum told us about a new major project, again, looking at the earth as a great garden, of planting 1 trillion trees on the earth in the course of time. Now, think about that. 1 trillion is a huge number of trees. So we're now beginning to think about what can our contribution to that be. And it's not easy when you're in a city like New York or Nanjing to think about how you're going to plant a lot of trees. But that'll be up to our juniors, and they're going to start thinking about that when we get back in the room on Saturday, begin to posit how they can actually make a change in that regard. And my colleague Wei Lin has been talking to some of the national parks in China and planning to do some work in the parks and in nature to begin to think about getting out of the cities and getting our students involved in that activity directly. So this program is at its infancy, but we intend to grow it, because in the long run, we want these young people to get to know each other and to be able to work together throughout their lives so that they can be the ones who can solve the big problems in the future. So thank you for listening. Thank you for calling this kind of meeting together, because it's really very important that we do groom this next generation to be leaders in saving the earth. I appreciate your attention, and I wish you good luck with the rest of the conference. Thank you very much.